We are live. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Unique New York. Unique New York. Max, you're still on mute. We're still in the intro phase here while I do all my
Josh Forsthoefel. Josh Forsthoefel.
Forsthoefel. The purple pants
of American handball
picked up a pair of pants for his porcupine. The unicyclist prepared a lunch.
Josh, why do we have to put up with this, dude?
How now, brown cow? The quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. Josh, you got any vocal exercises you like to, toss around in your day-to-day life?
I just say my last name normally. That normally does the trick.
All right. Well,
Forsthoefel, married man.
He's not married yet, but
not married yet.
We'll be talking about that live on the podcast.
Let's get this show on the road. All right. Welcome back, shooters, for a fantastic, terrific, tantalizing Team Handball Tuesday edition of Shootin' Straight Handball Podcast with JD and Max. Joey is still in our hearts.
Not our minds, though.
We'll get him back. We'll get him back once finals are done.
Maybe not.
Well, no, Max competing for a starting gig here. So just like Max, slowly taking over all the right wings in America. But we are joined this evening by Josh Forsthoefel. Josh, how are you doing this evening?
Pretty good. Nothing too crazy going on, so.
Good. We already had to have Max kick people out of his apartment for this because he thought this was at 9. So, but the show must go on. So I hope you're excited for a fantastic edition. And for those of you who are wondering, I said we're going to make changes to the show. New time, new internet connection. I got an Ethernet cable plugged in. I got new room in the house.
Oh, are they going to call a foul on that? That is ridiculous.
Max is watching the OSU basketball game. How are we doing, Max?
Not good.
Not good. Who are we really going to lose?
I mean, we're down by 6.
To who?
The Notre Dame, your school.
Oh.
I don't like your people.
Us Catholics.
In basketball.
Yep.
In life, I do. They're great people. In basketball, no. And Dane Goodwin, Upper Arlington kid, deciding to go to Notre Dame after decommitting from Ohio State is an insult, honestly, to Ohio State, Columbus, the community.
He's the new.
If you're an Upper Arlington kid, you don't go to Notre Dame. You go to Ohio State.
Yep. Thomas would like to say in the chat that it's a show full of lefties without the best lefty. So I'll let that.
Well, you're not a lefty, so it doesn't. It's really a show full of lefties.
Throw left-handed.
You can't. Yeah, sure.
JD, you can't throw a period, so.
All right.
That's what I was going to say.
I got a feeling this isn't. We're already off to a rough start with Twitch. It's not looking so hot. I don't know. I don't know what's going on, but the show will continue. Anyways, so one other intro item here, Josh, a friend of the program, wanted to say hello, congrats on your engagement, and that he is very upset with you still to this day for ruining his leg, and that's all. That's all I had to say. So.
Ruining his leg, is that Sam?
It is Sam, yes.
Hey, Sam. I'm sorry again.
We're back with Twitch. Jeb would like to say that Josh is the #1 ref in America, so a lot of hot takes there. But Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself for all our viewers out there who do not know who you are?
And Josh,
sure.
You're the LeBron of American handball.
I don't know where that came from in terms of LeBron of American handball. I like to think myself as
former work.
I mean, I was more of a Dirk, a white guy who moves really slow yet somehow scores a lot of points. That's how I would describe myself. However, for those of you who don't know me, Josh Forsthoefel, I played at OSU, was club president for 1.5 years. Since then, I've kind of transitioned into being more of a ref because nobody else likes to ref around here. So kind of just going down that journey, trying to help build up other refs, still playing when I can, but because of JD, I tore my ACL because
Because of me?
You didn't get enough people. Yes, because of you. Because you didn't get enough people to go to Chicago, so we didn't have any subs. So I was dead tired, putting the team on my back.
Topic. That shit show of a tournament is a great topic of discussion.
I'm not saying that was the worst roster we've ever sent to a tournament, but it was up there.
If I'm starting on the 8 team, it's a bad roster already, and it didn't get any better from that.
It reminds me of our first year at Flanders, where we literally just had like 3 guys that never played handball before. We took home that 3rd place trophy, though. So
we sure did.
Max, you're muted.
No, I'm not. You just didn't hear me.
Oh.
I said 3rd place.
High production quality right there.
I don't know. We got a lot of lag. Thomas subscribed. There we go. Shout out Thomas. Woo. So you played at Ohio State. You coached, or you were the club president at Ohio State. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what that was like, being a club president and being at such a prestigious handball school like Ohio State?
Yeah. So at Ohio State, obviously, JD, you were the president before me. I know there was Randall and Jeremy as well in between there, but, we had a solid foundation started. But, being the president, you kind of have a couple of main goals as a leader of an organization like that. And number one is to just grow the sport. I think as a club president, our membership went probably from about 20, 22 guys. I think at the peak, we were at probably a solid 36-ish. So we had enough for 2 teams and truthfully 3 teams if we really wanted to, and just kind of cultivating and growing that and building relationships is the main thing, these people have to do as club presidents. And I think that's something that's eventually going to be a problem this year going into next. You're going to essentially have an entire year of people not being able to build those relationships, introduce people to handball, and it'll be interesting to see what happens with that.
Completely agree. And we're already off to a rough start because the men's team has refused to practice. None of them are listening, so I can talk trash.
They can't really practice right now, JD. They're not allowed to
not
by the
right now, but the months that we did have,
earlier, yeah.
Yeah, they refused. Not because of COVID, just because they just didn't feel like it. The women's team, they are a very dedicated bunch, very proud of them. They will hold strong. It was very unfortunate that we did not have college nationals last year, both for them to get an opportunity to play some games, but also for the men's side, because it was probably one of the better men's teams that we've had in existence of the club. So, it's one of those things that us old timers.
I'll be honest. I think us at Home Team Advantage last year, and I would be coaching as well. I had booked a plane ticket. I think we would have finished top 3.
I'm not gonna BS it. I would say yeah. I think we.
Yeah, I legitimately think that roster is getting up there. Top 3 is definitely possible. I don't think we knock off West Point, but I think top 3 is definitely in the picture.
So, the best Ohio State's ever finished is 5th. So that's still.
Was that the 2015?
That was my first year. We finished 5th.
2010.
2013.
2005.
Yep. So, yeah, I'm real old for all you listeners out there. Yes, Alex, we're aware there's a lag, so please just be patient with us.
Is that Alex Tyborski?
Styborski refuses to watch. We can't have too many lefties
It was great.
I mean, we've got all the wings, but not all the lefties. So I'm not sure why Sty doesn't watch. It's not like he's got activities at 8:45 on a Tuesday night.
JD, can I give a shout out right quick?
Of course.
I'd like to give a shout out to our guest today, Josh Forsthoefel, for inviting me to his wedding. And I just wanted to point out that so there's me and 2 other people on this podcast. One of them is JD Orr, a man I've seen as a mentor, a close friend, a confidant, a coach, a business partner, a owner. And one is Josh Forsthoefel, another great friend, played with him for years, but but not on any of the business side things. And one of them, of the two, which one do you think would invite me to their wedding?
Oh, here we go.
And no, so actually, the one that invited me to their wedding was Josh, and JD decided, no, we don't need my dear friend Max at my wedding. Like, no, too much of a liability, maybe. Correct, but I wasn't the one puking under a table at the wedding. I digress. I think we just should give a special shout out to Josh Forsthoefel for just having the cojones to invite someone of my stature. And the gift will be very, very commensurate with how happy I am. Like,
well, I think my fiance Brooke's watching, so you can thank her too.
I'm giving you. Maybe I'll give some Armada ownership as a wedding present. That would be the nicest gift anyone could give.
Thrilled about that.
Does she want to own 5% of the Armada? We can make it happen.
There's still a board seat available, I believe, Max.
Yeah, because we only have 4. Josh, do you think she would like a seat on the Columbus Armada board?
I mean, technically speaking, that'd be somebody that's outside of handball organizations. After she's done with school, who knows? She only has this spring, so.
I'm volunteering her for this. That's tough. That's a tough look on you, buddy. But
anyways, Max was not invited to my wedding. We had a very large wedding, and he was on the original list.
So it was very large, but I didn't make the cut, is what you're saying.
Didn't make the cut. Yep.
And I mean, when I get married in 2 to 4 months, JD, I don't think you're going to be making the cut. So just how the cookie crumbles, as they say.
Understood. That's one of my favorite phrases. Do you know what movie that's from?
It's from the movie God Bless America. Your other favorite phrase.
My other favorite phrase. No, it's from Bruce Almighty. Anyways, so Josh, now we've kind of gone through who you are and a little bit about Ohio State. Why become a referee? I know you talked about just the fact that there's a need in our area, but is there a bigger reason, or do you have any long-term goals with becoming a referee?
I would say there's a couple goals or a couple reasons why I kind of dove into refereeing. First off, just naturally picked up on refereeing, was able to see certain things that most college referees weren't able to see when I was playing and refereeing during college. And so just had a natural ability for it. Number 2, I always got thrown into it because of that. And then number 3, in terms of goals, I definitely could see myself in 2028 potentially refereeing at the Olympic Games. That's a goal. Now, there are some stipulations with that in terms of what these next 6.5 years are going to hold, or 7.5, years are going to hold in terms of what are the qualifications and certifications I have to get. I'm working on a lot of those now, taking every refereeing course and slogging through some pretty vanilla courses, but ultimately that's my goal, is to be able to do that, and at the very least kind of be a backbone for the area in terms of developing a league in the Midwest and having a strong refereeing partnership with that.
Do you have any plans to bring any mentors into your referee circle, or mentees? Excuse me.
Mentees?
Yeah.
I mean,
Josh referees.
Yeah, I'd be more than willing to teach as many people as possible. Actually, I know Joey's not on the podcast. I don't know if he re-listens to these, but me and him have actually worked together a little bit before COVID kind of re-upped itself. I was actually heading up to Detroit on Thursdays to help him get together some games and potentially start out that mentee type program, introducing people to refereeing. And along those lines of, personally, I don't think it's that hard to referee. I think people are worried too much about making the wrong call, and just kind of teaching them that everybody's going to make a wrong call. I don't think there's a single game where somebody hasn't yelled at my face And after the game, though, normally 9 times out of 10, they'll say, you did a good job. So teaching people to get over that fear is definitely something I look forward to doing.
Yeah, I think one of the issues we face in our area is just people think they know the rules and they don't. And I know in Joey's situation, he's got a lot of people that are willing to jump on the referee train, but they don't have the slightest clue about handball rules and what it takes. We
we've been saying
that
that
issue. Sorry, go ahead, Max.
Yeah, we've been saying that for a while. The next step for us is obviously we can grow the game as much as we want, but if we don't have refs like Josh, we're going nowhere. You can't. No one wants to just shoot around all day. You want to have a good game with a good ref, and if we don't have a good refereeing system in the U.S., we're in the water.
Yep.
And to go off of that, I think the refereeing issue in America specifically is you have 2 sets of referees. The one you first alluded to was you have a bunch of guys who, frankly, never refereed before or just learned the rules, probably know the rules less than the players themselves half the time. And then you have the European players who haven't played in 2 or 3 years but are really excited to play again, and they're not updated on the current IHF rules. And so, for example, they'll go out and nearly murder somebody in the first minute of a game, and they're only expecting a yellow card, and you give them a 2-minute right away, and they're just completely shocked. Or they'll be that referee who only gives a yellow card when, in fact, with the updated rules, it's supposed to be a 2-minute.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Jeremy said that Sty is unable to join the show tonight because he's too busy doing some dip. But Josh, one of the questions that we asked Rafa, our Rafa-ree, about handballs, what would you say is the most obscure handball rule, or one that is commonly forgotten about, if that makes sense?
I would say there are a couple rules. Number one, it's not necessarily obscure, but for Americans who don't play soccer as much, the idea that it's not necessarily matters where the player is on the court to be inbounds or out of bounds. It matters where the ball is. So a player can be completely out of bounds as long as momentum is taking him back in and the ball's inbounds. That guy is still in bounds. The play is not dead. We're used to college football and things along that line where the football could be a yard or 2 out of bounds. And as long as the guy's feet are in, it's a catch, he's in bounds. Whereas handball is the exact opposite of that. I think another rule that gets overlooked often or is misunderstood is the 6 meter. Being inside the 6 and the hole, it's kind of like the floor is lava. A lot of people don't always understand restricted zones. I don't think there's any major sports in the United States that really have any restricted zones like that.
Yeah, lacrosse and hockey are somewhat similar, but
This is somewhat.
You really don't have you do have a restricted zone, but it's so small that people don't really necessarily notice it. And lacrosse, you're right, there's a restricted zone, but to that extent as well, as we've discussed, lacrosse is more mainstream than handball, but lacrosse, if you were to ask people various rules of lacrosse, I'm sure if you ask half of the OSU handball team the various rules of lacrosse, they wouldn't be able to tell you them.
Fair.
I got a scenario-based question.
Go ahead,
Josh. I'm sorry, Jay.
Let her rip.
Okay. This is going to be from experience. Say, Josh, you have a coach, okay? This coach, for the sake of the podcast, we'll name Yoni. And say this coach is very argumentative, gets in people's faces, screaming at you, screaming at his own kids, screaming at the other team. What do you do to control that coach, corral that coach?
It really depends on his hostility. I I know who you may or may not be referring to.
I'm not referring to anyone, Josh. This is a hypothetical.
Yes, Yoni. You ever
Yeah.
seen Yoni pics?
You know, the number one thing for myself as a referee, you have to block out a lot of that extra noise. If they're just yelling to yell, it's annoying, but you just can't let it distract you. However, if they're starting to get hostile toward you or something like that, as many instances I've done, and unfortunately, for better or for worse, I've had a reputation of just giving direct 2 minutes or straight red cards to people, because there's no room for hostility like that in any sort of game. So that's how I deal with it. Is, you know, I tell them in the beginning, tell each captain, each coach, hey, I understand there's going to be some talking, some chirping, things along that line. Nothing wrong with that. But if you start, you know, really going after somebody or attacking somebody or yelling at a ref or just going at them, I'm not going to deal with it. It's going to be an automatic red. So that's how I deal with it personally.
And honestly, I'm fine with that. I think you just gotta stop it. There's no place in that for the game. And if it takes having a red to stop it and get the guy out of there, like, that's what you got to do. I got frustrated when there were too many refs in this hypothetical situation that just sat there and took it, because I don't think a ref should have to take it. If some guy's coming at you, deal with it.
Yeah, I mean,
go ahead.
I think the biggest, I was going to say, I think the biggest thing with that is, you know, you establish those ground rules right away of saying, you know, there's always going to be a call that upsets people. But if after 4 or 5 possessions they're still yelling at you for that call, there's no need for it. And there are de-escalation tools that you can do. You can, as you're running down, you know, say, hey, I heard you. I got you. We can discuss after the game if you really want to. We're done. It's over with. There are a lot of different techniques that you can do, but I mean, yeah, relatively speaking, there's no room in the game for continued blatant disregard.
And at the end of the day, the vast majority of us playing this game for fun.
Exactly.
Couple
At the
things.
collegiate club sport.
Couple things. One in the chat. Brooke, an OT is a some kind of therapist, right? We're gonna want one of them, so we'll bring you on board. I don't know what the O part is, so I apologize. Occupational. All right. Well,
you get the lingo, buddy.
All right. Well, I'm not in the medical world. I'm in the drug dealing world. All right.
I mean, I'm in the drug medical world, so.
And Jeremy said that he would have paid to see Max give another best man speech. Max, what best man speech have you given? Meckling's wedding?
I mean, that I will be giving Meckling's wedding's best man speech.
Oh, he didn't get married
hopefully.
to the Iranian woman or the Azerbaijani woman.
He will not be. Meckling is an interesting case. He's a great person, great heart. I've never given a best man speech. I thought about it. Like, JD, for instance, if I was giving your best man speech, I would talk about how any woman is very lucky to have you. You're a catch, JD.
I'm glad. Do you recognize that I am married? I know that's one that's been debated.
I'm unaware. I know you have 2 dogs.
Okay. We'll work on that. One of the things, Josh, that with referees that drives me nuts as a goalie is, 2 things. Play on and inside the 6, and I guess 3 things: inside the 6 and shooting when they land. So it's one of those things that I know we've talked about, I think, with Rafa when he was on about the whole European style of it was a cool shot, he jumped and he landed, but we're just going to let it count. I very much against that. Like, it's very black and white to me. Like, yeah, there's bang plays, but you know, if it's obvious that he landed, shouldn't count it. If it's obvious he's inside 6, shouldn't count it. If he's been wrapped up for 16 steps, probably shouldn't be play on. So those are the kind of things that I frequently am perturbed with. And I think one of the things that as a new referee, watching the 6 meter line is pretty easy to do. You just have to check that someone's inside. So
I think in American football, another huge thing is charges. We do not call offensive fouls.
offensive.
That's true.
Yeah. So with that, I think there's a couple things to pick apart. In terms of, when the offense is shooting and they step inside the 6, I'm 100% with you. It doesn't matter how cool a shot is or anything else like that. If they clearly take a step inside the 6, and I guess that goes to the second part of if they're on the line or anything else like that, the offense is doing that. It's an automatic no goal. In terms of the reverse of that, though, I actually just took a very vanilla updated course on the 6 meter rules for defenders. It's a little bit more of a gray area. A lot of people, if a defender's running through the 6 to make a defensive play, that's an automatic, 7 meter. But in actuality, if over 50% of your foot is outside of the 6 as a defender at the point of attack, you're actually safe, for lack of better terms. You're allowed to play normal. What's that?
Echo, wow. You can play with half your foot in?
Yeah, a little bit less than half your foot, yes. And that's when you're starting your defense. So obviously, if you get pushed back into the 6, that's still allowed. And that's something that, truthfully, I didn't know to the full extent. I knew if you get pushed into the 6 by the offensive players that you were still safe to do your regular defensive moves, but that part of it I didn't know. And then so also as far as, the continuation of play, if a player's wrapped up, they need to, as a new referee, as soon as you see somebody get wrapped up, you need to start or already be counting steps, because that's where a lot of people get in trouble with. Like you said, a guy takes 4 steps, 5 steps, all the other players start to essentially give up on the play because they know the whistle's supposed to come. I mean, we're all human nature. I mean, you see it in football, baseball, anything like that. People start, if a guy, hits a fly ball and it looks like the third out of the inning, half the team's going to already start heading for the dugout other than the guy catching the fly ball. So everybody else on the court's already expecting the whistle to be dead. And if it's not blown dead, then it gives an unfair advantage to the offense. So I'm 100% with you. I understand those frustrations. It's also, you got to remember though, too, from a referee perspective, you're watching 4 or 5 different things at a time. True. And trying to keep track of everything as
well. Those are very good points.
Yeah. Why don't we transition from referee talk to a little more handball growth talk? Josh, you're currently located in Coldwater, Ohio. Is that correct?
Yep, middle of nowhere, cornfields.
Okay, so how many friends you got that live in Coldwater right now?
I have about 5, but none are athletic enough to actually be playing any sort of handball.
Sounds like one sort of handball team.
Yeah, what about your brother? Does he count? He's pretty big. For everybody that didn't know, Josh's brother
he is
boy.
Very big. He would be quite a dominant pivot, in my opinion, or circle runner, whichever you want to call it. Personally,
bigger than yours?
Oh God, yeah. Yeah, he's massive. I mean, truthfully, if he wanted to right now, I don't know how his shoulders would do throwing wise, but even as just a defensive enforcer, I honestly think he could be on the U.S. under-21 team. Ooh, as a sub.
Josh.
How old is he? Wait, Josh, how old is he?
He is 21 right now, so...
is he in school or is he working?
He's working now. He just got done with school this past spring. But yeah, he easily could have I tried to get him into handball all the time. He kept saying no. So he probably would have to lose a couple pounds, but overall, I mean, he's still really athletic and easily could have done it. I mean, I'm sure that's something we'll discuss later with the fun spreadsheet I whipped up about our Egypt 2021 bid. But yeah, I can try to build something up here, but I also think given my location, it's actually ending up being a kind of a sweet spot location to help out, building referees, because I'm 2 hours away from Columbus, which kind of sucks. But I'm also only 3 hours away from Detroit, and 3 hours away. What's that?
I was gonna say 2 hours from Cincinnati and 2.5 to Indy.
Yeah. Yep. 2 hours from all those places, and I mean Kentucky. I believe it's Lexington just started a club.
Shout out to Stags.
And so, yeah. So just kind of. Truthfully, it's nice being kind of in the center of everything, so that way, if something's needed, I can hop and be there in a decent amount of time without killing an entire week.
And gentlemen, quick update. Actually, Ohio State just tied the game with Notre Dame, late in the second. The TV scoreboard is not working, so I have no idea.
This is a unique
situation. Say about 10 minutes.
They have completely hidden
8:44.
Everything.
All right.
There's 8 minutes left.
Beautiful. Buckeye's going to close out here. That's good.
Yeah. So Josh, I like the thought of you as a hatchet man here in the Midwest, a utility hatchet man for all of us to use and abuse for your handball knowledge and refereeing skills. As the owner of the Columbus Armada, I can tell you we have big plans for the future, and those plans involve you, sir.
As a referee, right? My playing days. While I would love to continue to play, I have a feeling I'm slowly getting pushed out of that.
What if we got you
by a multitude of factors? It's been. I just celebrated 2 months ago, or month and a half ago, the 2-year anniversary of my ACL surgery. It feels good. Starting to lose some pounds again. Good old COVID diets and stuff like that, so I'm ready to go.
As someone that was on the court when you tore your ACL, it was brutal. You knew immediately. The first thing you said is, "It's my ACL. I'm done."
Yeah, it was a fun experience. If any of the kids from the Chicago area that were playing lacrosse on the field next to us, for some reason, are listening, I want to apologize to them. There was a lot of profanity. But yeah, it was a good time.
It was not a good time. That was not a fun tournament.
I just don't know.
We stayed at a decent hotel though. Hotel wasn't awful.
No,
there was a men's tier 3 hockey team at the same hotel from the NA3HL.
See, anytime that I don't go
and
to tournaments, bad news. So bad.
Craig Rott is an All-American. Just an All-American person.